Hello ocean people, I'm Brent with the Brent Underwater YouTube channel for learning underwater photography, and it's been quite a while since I've made a video, so I am back. We're going to make a bunch more videos and start with answering some questions that you guys have. You've been leaving some great feedback, some great comments in the comments section below, as well as in my email through my website, tutorials@brentdurand.com. So today we're going to talk about whether you can shoot underwater stills and underwater video on the same dive. And the simple answer is yes, we know that we can. Most cameras today, whether they're compact, mirrorless, or DSLR, will shoot photo and video on the same dive in just one button press for either of them. But how do you handle the lighting situation? So I'm going to go through 3 different scenarios for how I will prepare for shooting both stills and video on the same dive. The first setup is when I'm focused primarily on still photos, and I'm going to use my underwater strobes. So you'll see that set up on my camera right now. I've got a strobe on each different arm coming off of the camera and camera housing, and that's going to be my primary focus for the dive. I don't want to add video lights or anything else yet for this setup because I'm mostly shooting still photos. I'll be able to use all the benefits of the strobes and the flash by creating great vibrant colors, adding a lot of contrast into the scene, and freezing motion so I can get nice crisp images from slow subjects or fast moving subjects. So I get all those benefits, but I can still shoot some video on the dive. If I see a great scene that I want to shoot, I will rely on ambient light to shoot that shot. So for that video, I will simply switch my settings over from camera, where I'm using full manual settings, you'll see in some of these other videos on this channel, to video mode, and then I will also shoot in manual settings, but you can just flip to video mode or hit that red record button for video in any settings you're using on your camera, and the camera will most likely record great underwater video. To shoot ambient light underwater video, I will switch between automatic white balance and manual white balance depending on the scene and what exactly I'm shooting. Closer to the surface, I'll often leave white balance at automatic white balance just for simplicity, and the colors actually turn out pretty well, especially on Canon, which does a good job with auto white balance for still photos and for video. If I'm a little bit deeper, I'll use a manual white balance, which is usually anywhere between 1 button press to about 3 to 5 button presses, depending on your camera and housing setup. The second setup I'll use for shooting underwater photo and video on the same dive is when I'm focused primarily on shooting video, so I'll set up with my video lights. Now I've got my video lights at the end of each arm, and that's primarily what I'm going to be used for shooting subjects that are close to the camera. Now, as we've talked about in other videos, that light is only going to travel 4 to 6 feet underwater, 1.5 to 2 meters maximum, so we want to be close to the subject and illuminate the foreground subject with those lights. Everything else will be ambient light in the background. Now the benefit here is that I can shoot great underwater video using my video lights or turn them off and shoot ambient light underwater video. So I've got everything covered on that end. The other thing I can do is actually use the video lights for my still photography so I can get some of that bright, vibrant color and that pop with my foreground subjects even while shooting still photos. So if you haven't yet, check out my video on shooting constant light underwater for still photos because that will guide you into how to shoot still photos using video lights. Then of course I can shoot ambient light still photography. So this setup is pretty versatile in the sense that I can shoot both video and still photos with foreground light, and I can also shoot ambient light for video and for still photos. So I'm pretty versatile here for most shooting situations. The only drawback might be fast action where I really want the power and the flash from underwater flashes or strobes. One quick shooting tip with this setup is that I leave the image stabilization for the camera on. For the most part, image stabilization won't affect your underwater photography, especially using flashes or strobes and continuous autofocus. You'll find that you'll get most of your subjects in focus for most shooting situations. Now, of course, having the IS on is great because it helps you with your underwater video. You get that stable video, which is primarily what I'm going to be shooting with this setup during my dive. One last tip here, and I think we have friends coming down the trail, but that is that I bring my ultralight video tripod with me on these type of dives when I'm set up for video. So you can simply adjust the legs based on any way you want to shoot, and it sets up really well to get really stable footage where you want a very stable foreground subject and maybe catch the kelp moving in the background or fish swimming or something like that. So I highly recommend a video tripod if you want those really stable static shots. And my third setup for shooting underwater photo and video on the same dive is to bring both strobes and video lights on the same dive. Now you've got the benefits of strobes, capturing that fast action and the bright, vibrant color and contrast, but you've also got video lights to bring out those same qualities in your underwater video. And then of course you can turn the whole system off to shoot ambient light. Now the downside is that you've got a lot of weight here because you've got you've got a light and a strobe on each end, but the positive is you can create that full range of shots if you're okay with multitasking and thinking in both of those dimensions for video and for stills. Now personally, I like to mount both on the end of my strobe arms because that gives me the most versatility for underwater strobe positioning and positioning the video lights. If you haven't seen that video yet, I've got a link to it right here. Be sure to watch it. The other thing many people will do is mount their video light on the second clamp right here, which makes the system a little bit easier to navigate and also to move around and to even position the light and the strobe. The downside to that is you don't have the same range of positioning and motion with both of those lights as if you had them on the end here. Now the way I'm able to connect the light and the strobe to this clamp at the very end of my arm, or even if you're using the second clamp, is through a triple clamp. You'll see that instead of a double ball mount, it has space for 3 different ball mounts right here. So I have my 3 different accessories or 3 different mounting points, which allows me to mount the strobe, the light, and connect those to the ball end of my arm. Now this clamp is made by Ultralight Control Systems. They've been doing this a very long time. The clamps are tough, they'll last a lifetime. Now that's pretty much it. I hope these tips are useful for you so you can go out there and capture photos and videos using the system that works best for you. One last tip to remember that is really important is that when you're switching around between lights and strobes, or even lights and strobes, or no strobes or lights at all, or big domes or small domes, your camera system is going to have different weights. So be sure that you're adjusting the float to offset that weight accordingly. You want to have your system close to neutrally buoyant. So I'll be adjusting these float arms on each of my arms depending on what I'm shooting and how I'm shooting. Now, for instance, if I'm hand holding the camera, I want it to be pretty close to neutral. But if I'm using that video tripod with video lights, I want my system to be pretty heavy so it sits on the bottom, on the sand, or wherever I'm putting it, even in surge. So I'll probably ditch the floats to make my system a lot heavier. It all comes down to personal preference, but just keep this in mind as you're switching back and forth, especially on the same dive day. If you have any comments or feedback, leave them in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.